In worksheet 4.6a, the first 10 problems ask you to find the value of c that completes the square. Okay? Find the value of c that completes the square. So in your homework up to this point, you've had problems where they're basically saying this, plus something equals some number plus that same thing. This is all we're looking for. We're looking for what number are you adding to both sides. Don't get confused that now they're calling it c. Okay, it doesn't matter that it's called c. Okay, we're just looking for that number. What are we adding to both sides? So, to do that, we set it up just like we would in any other homework problem. Give yourself the binomial squared. Y goes in front. And now we've got to take half of negative 36. What's half of negative 36? Negative 18. Okay, so now to find c, what do we do with that negative 18? We square it. Yeah, c is going to be negative 18 squared. So if you don't know what that is in your head, grab a calculator. What is negative 18 squared? 324, is that what I heard? Yeah, so that's your answer. Okay, all you're looking for here is the value that makes this a perfect square trinomial, which means it's a trinomial that can be factored like so. So we're looking for that number. Okay? Questions? Now, if you weren't here yesterday, that is the pattern. That's what we learned. We learned that we set up this binomial down here with a y in front, or whatever your variable is, right? And it's squared. To find this number, we take half of our b term. And then once we know that number, we square that number to give us the constant in our trinomial. Okay? Now, take a look at number 2. Number 2 is slightly different. Slightly different, but it's actually the exact same process. The process doesn't change. The numbers we're using are different. Because if we go through and do this, oops, what's the issue you're running into? It's not what? Well, half of negative 19 isn't an even number. That's the issue, because 19's odd. So that's the issue we're running into. But we still need to do the same process. We're still taking half of negative 19. Please remember, I told you guys before, in this class, I don't want decimals. I don't want mixed numbers. So how do I write half of negative 19 as a fraction?
19 over 2.
Yeah, negative 19 halves. Negative 19 over 2. That's all we're doing. Okay? Now, before you guys ask, please listen to me. Please focus on the words coming out of my mouth. Before you guys ask, you do not need a calculator to work this problem. Okay? Do not ask me, how do I use my calculator to do fractions? Where's the fraction key on my calculator? You don't need it. Okay? Do the fraction work in your head. All right? If you need a calculator to take 19 times 19, that's fine. Use a calculator to calculate. Okay? Don't try to have the calculator think for you. So, to find this value of c, we take negative 19 halves and square it, just like we've done. So, this is going to be negative 19 halves squared. Well, remember, all that means is that we're taking negative 19 halves times negative 19 halves. How do you multiply fractions? Straight across the top and the bottom. So what is negative 19 times negative 19? Now if you want to use a calculator, go for it.
361.
361. And 2 times 2? 4. So there we go. 361 over 4 is the value of c we're looking for. Okay? Don't allow the calculator to rob you of learning something. You guys know how to use fractions? You've been taught how to use fractions. You need to practice using fractions. Okay? Again, if you need a calculator to calculate, well then do that. But don't try to figure out how to make the calculator do everything for you. Okay? All right, questions on 2? No. Let's take a look down at number 7. Number 7 is another one where we got fractions involved. The process is the same. The process is the same. We have our binomial squared. X goes first. We now need to take half of our middle term. All right, we got to take half of 81/17. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. In all the other problems we've done, you've taken that b term and just said over 2, right? And divided it by 2. That's the same thing you would think here. Oops, it's not 18, it's 81. You're going to take 81 over 17, and you're going to divide that by 2. The issue is, I don't like fractions involved in fractions. Okay? So is there a way to write 2 as a fraction? Just a question. It's 2 over 1. So way back when, you learned we never divide by a fraction. But do you remember what we do instead?
Multiply by the reciprocal.
Thank you, ma'am. We multiply by the reciprocal of that fraction. Well, the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. Now, wait a minute. Don't get so messed up in the process here. You guys know this already. You guys know that cutting something in half, dividing it by 2, is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. You guys know that. Okay? Don't let what you know get in the way of what you think you have to do. All right? You know dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. So there we go. We don't divide by 2, we multiply by 1/2. So what is 81/17 times 1/2? 81/34. So right there is what we put in our binomial. Now again, slow down. We're not done. We took half of our b term. We're still trying to find that constant, c. So what do we do with 81/34? Square it. Don't ask me how to deal with calculators or how to deal with fractions in your calculator. You don't have to. You know that you've got to take 81/34 and square it, which means 81/34 times 81/34. Or if you want to get fancy, you can say it's 81 squared over 34 squared. Either way you do it, what's our answer? 6,561 over
1,156.
There we go.
It's a very large fraction.
Well, no, it's just a little over 6.
Just looks big.
It just looks big. The whole thing is cut into a whole bunch of little pieces. All right. So there we go. Please, please, please practice using fractions. Don't try to find an easy way out and grab that calculator and try to figure all that stuff out, okay? Work it out. It's not that much extra work to think about it like this as opposed to plugging it into a calculator, okay? I'm not taking away your calculator. You can still use your calculator to take 81 times 81 or 34 times 34, okay? All right. Any questions on the front page as far as what you're being asked to do and how to do it? No. Great. Let's see. And on the next page, actually, I want to go to the back page. We want to take a look at number 23. We want to take a look at number 23. So, in number 23, is this set up the way we need it set up? No. What do we have to do? Add 9 first. Get the constant to the other side. Okay? Get yourself set up to complete the square. Okay, but can we complete the square right now? No. What do we need to do? We got to take out a GCF there on the left side, which is 3. No, well, we don't want to do all the whole GCF. Yeah, be careful on that. Be careful on that. The key idea here is that you want to get rid of this 3. You don't want a 3 out in front. We want a 1 out in front so that we can complete the square. So factor out the 3. Okay, factor out the 3 so that now you can just divide both sides by 3. And you're left with what you need to complete the square. All right, so now we're set up to complete the square. What is half of 2? What's 1 squared? So we have b plus 1 quantity squared equals 4. So we go ahead then and square root both sides. The square root cancels the square, and we get b plus 1 equals positive and negative 2. If you think of this as what we've always been doing, then you would write this, once you subtract 1, you would say, all right, we've got b equals negative 1 plus and minus 2. Well, we can combine that. We don't have square roots involved here, so we actually got to take negative 1 plus 2. Please don't use a calculator. Negative 1 plus 2. Negative 1 plus 2. Count it on your finger. 1. Okay. What is negative 1 minus 2? Negative 3.